The glitch. Something has been bothering me that has me questioning my thoughts. It's something I'm seeing, at least I think I'm seeing, but I can't be too sure. It's been going on for a week and a half now, since I first saw the phenomenon. It started just as any other normal, regular, boring day. I got up, got dressed, and ready for work, had a little breakfast, and was out the door ready to start the day. I decided to walk to work, as it wasn't far, and the day was just too beautiful to pass up. The cooling of the autumn wind that touched my face felt comforting as I sipped from my warm cup of coffee. As I continued down the sidewalk, I had plenty on my mind, but my train of thought was broken when I noticed a beautiful bluebird nesting in a garden bed that was hanging from the windowsill of the ground floor apartment I was approaching. I walked right up to the windowsill garden bed and looked directly down at the bird in its nest right in front of me. The thing I noticed first was just how bright the blue was on the bird's body. It popped, as though it was in Technicolor, and the bird was not frightened or showed any signs of nervousness from my presence. It just sat in its nest, staring up at me. I smiled, and as I was about to turn and continue walking, the bird seemed to flicker, like some kind of hologram glitching out. I thought maybe I had blinked or something, and my mind was playing tricks on me. But as I was rubbing my eyes, I could have swore the bird did it again. I then looked around. Maybe someone was using a projector or something, and the bird was just an image. I then peered into the apartment's window to see if it was coming from inside. But as I did so, an old woman jumped up from her chair and rushed towards me, waving her finger at me as if she was scolding me, and shut her blinds. I yelled, "Sorry, madam!" But I'm not sure she heard me. I felt very embarrassed. People were probably thinking I was some peeping Tom or something. I turned quickly to get out of there, but as I did, the bird glitched and started to lag. It went all the way to the other end of the garden bed and streamed back, sitting there chirping at me like nothing had happened. I screamed and ran off, making my way to work, not believing what my eyes had witnessed. I told no one at work what I had just seen, not even my best friend. They all would have thought I was mad. I told no one at all, no friends, no family, not another living soul. Like I said, this has been going on for over a week now. Every morning, every single damn day I pass that apartment, I see the bluebird, and it always does the same thing. Well, after work today, I finally had enough and decided to look on the internet to see if I could find anything similar. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Maybe it's finally happened. I came across something interesting people have been sharing and talking about, and it's called a glitch in the Matrix. Just like the movie, I thought, maybe I'm not losing my mind after all. But before we get too excited, I must preface, I have been diagnosed with schizophrenia. It's a struggle to keep it under control, which I do with medications. I see things that aren't there. I hear people talking, voices that aren't there. So how do I know the bird lagging in the garden bed is even really there? I think it is, but I don't know for certain. Have I kept up my medicine? I think I have. I don't think I've skipped any days, but I'm just not certain. I woke up frightened this morning, dreading having to walk past that apartment and that bird that glitches. I decided to walk on the opposite side of the street today, trying anything to ease my mind. It was going great. I made sure I didn't look across the street When I came to the apartment, nothing was out of the ordinary. Everything was just going perfectly. It was just a perfect, beautiful day until I reached the coffee shop. As I approached, I saw a portly gentleman sitting at one of the tables in front of the shop, enjoying a cup of coffee and reading the morning paper. All well and good at first, but as I got closer, his cup of coffee began to glitch. I closed my eyes, just repeating, "No, no, no," over and over in my head. This can't be happening, not again. I opened my eyes, and not only did it glitch again, but it began to lag. Then it quickly moved across the table, streaming colors behind it as it moved. It was like a pinball machine, bouncing around to different corners of the table until it suddenly, and just as quickly, went back to its original place. I hesitantly moved forward, and as I got closer, I noticed the ink on the paper began to bleed, and when he flicked his wrist to straighten the paper out, everything went back into place. I screamed and ran, not believing my eyes, not believing that this continues to happen to me. I barely functioned the rest of the day, pretty much useless at work, not being able to trust my eyes or what I'm looking at. I'm finally back at home, back to safety. I don't want to go back out there. I can't trust myself. Am I going mad? Am I seeing what I'm seeing? Is it truly there? And is it truly happening? Is there a glitch in the Matrix? Or is there a glitch in my mind? My boyfriend and I watched multiple planes disappear into thin air. I was on a long drive with my boyfriend down a long straight highway. Perfectly blue, clear sky, just a couple wispy clouds. I saw a plane flying and then suddenly disappear. No, it didn't just get further away out of sight or go behind a cloud. It was flying in a straight line, fairly low and close enough to be very visible. And it just disappeared. Best way I can describe it was as if you were watching a play with a sky painted on a backdrop, and instead of someone going in front of the backdrop, they walked behind it and disappeared from sight. It was literally like the plane flew behind a wall in the sky and disappeared. I freaked out and told my boyfriend to keep an eye on the sky in case it happened again, because I wanted him to confirm what I saw. Lo and behold, another plane did the same thing, and then another. At this point, we were wondering if it was the same planes reappearing from behind the wall, because we saw this happen to 4 or 5 different planes. I don't know shit about air traffic control, but I can't imagine there being that many planes so close together, flying in different directions, and then just disappearing completely. As if they disappeared, reappeared, and disappeared again. There were no clouds in the way. There was no logical explanation at all for it, and I've never seen anything like it before or since. Anyone ever seen anything like this before? Lost hour of time. I've had a few genuinely unexplained experiences that I've been dying for feedback on. One of the main reasons I made this Reddit. Here's one. Had a coworker a few years ago who was one of those overly responsible types. Always made it to work at least 15 minutes early. Very put together, professional, organized type of person. So one day, She shows up to work 15 minutes shy of being an hour late. She walks in like nothing was wrong, but made a joke about how she was surprised we were already there, because she was always there first. She looked at her computer and started freaking out. She was a religious person, so she suddenly jumped up from her desk, panicking, saying, "The devil! It's the devil messing with me." So obviously we were all freaked out now. She goes on to explain that she sets her alarm for the same time every day, wakes her mom up and makes her breakfast, gets ready for work, watches the news, etc. Same routine every single day. She said she checked her clock multiple times on her phone, and the TV said the same time as well. Her mom also saw it as being the same time she was seeing. She drove to work, and her car clock read the same time as well. But when she got to work, it was an hour later than every single clock she had seen that morning. No, it was not daylight savings time, which phones adjust for now anyway. And if someone that punctual and well put together was going to make up an excuse for being late, I doubt she'd make up one that made her sound totally insane. She was genuinely freaked out. She just somehow completely lost an hour, even though she swore every clock she saw prior to getting to work read the same time. It was just an hour later for everyone else. I don't know what happened. I know you probably won't believe me when I say I don't know what's happening, but please try to have an open mind when I tell you this. Working late is something that I do often. After all, if you want a good life, you need money. Usually when I come home, I just lay down and crash. But today when I got home, it smelled coppery. Then when I turned on the lights, it just got worse. There was blood everywhere. I don't have any pets. I don't have any family. And I really don't have any neighbors. So how the F was blood all over my house? And what or who was it from? I started to walk through my house, and trust me, I know now that that was a mistake. If my shoes didn't have red bottoms before, they now did. As I got closer to my bedroom, I could smell this horrible stench. But I'm not one to be scared easily. To be honest, I thought this was just a prank. I had a falling out with one of my friends earlier this week, and this seemed like something he would do. As I opened my door, I dropped everything I had in my hands. It wasn't just a random dead animal or person. It was me, lying dead on my bed. But how could this be? I'm right here. I just went to work and came home. 1,000 thoughts started to rush through my head, but ultimately I decided it was just a horrid prank. It took hours to clean up the blood that soaked my house, and the smell of copper never left my house once. Even with everything cleaned up, I could still smell the copper, and it was driving me crazy. After all the blood was cleaned up, came the hard part. Finding out what to do with this thing in my bed. Was it a mannequin? Or was it just a weird wax doll? I didn't know. I didn't care. After a while of thinking, I decided to just push it off my bed. I would deal with it in the morning. It was literally 3 a.m. in the morning, and I had been working since 9 a.m. that prior day. I drifted off to sleep, expecting to wake up and deal with it later. But that never happened. When I woke again, I was opening my front door, again met with the horrible smell of copper. Instantly, I turned on my lights and let out a gasp. Every puddle of blood that I had cleaned up the night earlier was there again. To cut a long story short, I think I'm stuck in a loop. I clean it. I go to sleep. I wake up opening the front door. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I am slowly slipping into madness. Every day I clean up what seems to be my own blood, and I think I'll never find out how I've gotten stuck in this loop. If I really am dead, if that body in there really is me, what happened? Inversion. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, a quaint and historic town with a past steeped in the steel industry. But beneath the surface, a sinister secret lay hidden, waiting to ensnare any unsuspecting soul who ventured too close. As a freelance writer, I had a knack for finding peculiar stories in seemingly ordinary places. One day, I stumbled upon a post on an old abandoned message board detailing a dark mystery at the steel mill. There was a door that should never be opened. Intrigued by the potential, I ventured to the abandoned factory at dusk. The air was heavy with anticipation as I navigated the decaying brick and dust until I finally found the door, standing alone like a sentinel, surrounded by an eerie leather-stitched frame. I crossed the threshold without hesitation. The door vanished only to find myself in a world both familiar and unnervingly different. The streets of Bethlehem were now a labyrinth of twisted alleys and inverted landmarks. The people I encountered have no skin, their blood vessels pulsing through muscle tissue and speaking in muffled, screeching tones, their eyes filled with an unsettling judgment. In this inverted reality, the most striking changes were those of sensory perception. Music, once a source of solace, now sounded dissonant and foreboding, as if played by unseen hands. Food, once a source of joy, now tasted unsettlingly different, with sweet flavors morphing into bitterness and savory dishes turning unnervingly bland. I became consumed by the need to return to my own reality. Desperate, I spent my days navigating the twisted alleys of Bethlehem, searching for the door that would take me back to the life I once knew. One evening, while wandering through a particularly disorienting maze of streets, I met a woman named Eliza. She too had crossed the threshold and became trapped in this inverted world. Together, we pooled our knowledge and resources in an attempt to locate the door. With determination, Eliza and I began our search for the door. As we delved deeper into the labyrinth streets, the sinister nature of the inverted world began to take its toll. The streets shifted, straightaways becoming dead ends. Finally, we found the door, hidden in plain sight, within the heart of Bethlehem. As we prepared to cross the threshold, Eliza stops me and mentions that only one of us could return to our world before the door is sealed forever. With tears in her eyes, Eliza pushed me towards the door. She had decided to sacrifice her freedom to give her friend her life back. As I stepped through the door, my world filled with blackness as my arms and legs stretched and my skin peeled from the inside out as I watched from outside my body. The door has been satisfied. Eliza, her gaze averted, stepped through the door. It shuts with a thud. I am sealed in the inverted world. Inverted, too. Viewer discretion is advised, as well as a trigger warning for this story. I have become stuck in an endless time loop where I am forced to repeat the same day until I get it right. I don't know what started it, but it just keeps going. I have asked for advice here numerous times, and the same people always answer. I tried out what they said, but it didn't work. Can any of you think of any way to stop this and finally free me from this torture? I have tried killing myself dozens of times, but the day just restarts at my alarm waking me up. Somehow, I have to figure out how to stop this from happening. My husband doesn't believe me and has called me a monster every loop. He just thinks I am making this up to cover up what I did. I tried to explain to him that it wasn't my fault and that I had no control over it. It breaks my heart watching the doctors pronounce her dead and carry her body out. And every loop, I wake up to find out that once again, I rolled over and smothered my infant daughter in my sleep. Please, help me. I just saw my dad die. I stare at the front door. A part of me is waiting for him to come home. Idiot, I whisper. I regret it as soon as the words leave my mouth. He didn't ask to get robbed, but I had bugged him to move to a better neighborhood ever since he had found that job in sales. Everything for my little princess had always been his motto, so why didn't he avoid getting killed a bit harder? No one is surprised when they see a group of people corner a man in an expensive suit in a dark alley. But when I recognized my dad's face, seconds before the bullet hit his chest, I still screamed. The people turned their heads. I ran. And now I wait for the keys to turn in the door, although I know they never will. I should call 911, tell them where they can find Dad's remains, but I can't. He was all I had. If he only came back, if only the keys turned and... Hey, Princess, Dad waved. I'm home. My first impulse was to hug him. The second was to run. Both kind of canceled each other out, so I just stared. The same suit, blood-free. The same broad shoulders which always made his embrace feel so safe. The same smile. Why are you looking at me like that? I watched you die. What? I watched someone shoot you. He laughed. In a dark alley, I bet. God, you really let your nightmares get to you. Remember when you were 5 and had that dream where you were chased by a bunch of cats? I chuckled. We locked eyes. His were sparkling as always. You're for real. I ran up to hug him. I'm so glad you... See? He switched to his sales voice. With Clone Mark 3000, you can never die. What? He smiled sadly. I told you, Princess. I am damn good at my job. He moved a step aside. Behind him stood the people from the alley. They were carrying the lifeless body of my father between them, his suit drenched in blood. I looked at Dad again. No. I shook my head. You are my real dad. There you have it. He laughed his fake sales laugh. Even though she saw me getting shot, she still swears that. I haven't been her real dad for a decade. You've seen videos, me dying every day at work, and the next version coming home as if nothing ever happened. But for our VIP customers, we provided this one-time special experience today. Proof that we at Clone Mark 3000 produced the perfect copies. The people applauded as Dad pulled a gun. "Don't worry, Princess," he smiled. "I truly believe in this company." Lighter disappeared and reappeared out of thin air, literally. I lit a candle with a bright blue lighter, set the lighter back next to the candle where I always put it. I looked away, and by the time I turned back around, it was gone. Looking all over the floor thinking it fell. Nope, just gone. A couple days later I was in my bathroom brushing my hair in the mirror, and the bright blue lighter fell out of thin air onto the floor. I know it sounds made up, but it isn't. And my counter is only hip level. This lighter fell from about my head level. There are no shelves that high it could have fallen off. And it literally was right in the middle of the bathroom. I saw it fall from my peripheral vision and in the mirror. And when I went to pick it up, I realized it was the same lighter I lost. I even know it was the same one because I picked at the sticker a little bit, and it has the same exact half-missing sticker. Has anyone ever experienced anything like this? Unexplained experience at my old work. I used to work in a plumbing and HVAC supply warehouse before I moved states. This was a pretty decent-sized warehouse. Worked there for a little over 5 years. Our products were separated by sections. With that being said, one day I was putting some stock away near the back of the warehouse. I was the only one in that section, and I 100% saw this fitting from down the aisle fly off the shelf, as if someone knocked it off with their hand, but no one was around. I know it happened because I walked over to it and put it back on the shelf. I tried telling my coworkers about it, but no one believed me. They tried saying maybe it was on the edge and it fell over, but it wasn't. It was back pretty far. I wish someone saw it with me. I still to this day cannot explain why that happened. I will say that section of the warehouse has always felt eerie to me. Crazy. I think something is following me. There really isn't a way for me to say this without sounding crazy, but I promise you I am completely sane. Everyone I've told so far thinks I'm either insane or need a psych ward visit. Let's start from the beginning. I'd gotten a letter in the mail that my father had died. In that letter, it clearly stated he was leaving his cabin to me. But honestly, I had no clue he even had a cabin. To be honest, my family was actually estranged from me. I had no contact for years, and there was absolutely no reason I should have gotten this. I had no clue how to react, but I chalked it up to some sick joke someone decided to play on me. When I showed my fiancé the letter, he snatched it out of my hand and instantly told me that we had to go to the cabin for Christmas. I obviously didn't want to go to some random cabin for Christmas, especially since I had absolutely no clue what could be in there. For all I knew, it was absolutely run down. I was standing firm on my answer. No. Well, that absolutely lasted all about maybe a week. My fiancé is absolutely stubborn, and there was no way he was going to back down from this. He loved nature, and he kept begging to go so he could finally hunt. We live in the city, and it's been a while since he'd actually been back out into the country or woods. A good maybe 4 weeks went by, and it was finally time to go. But again, I definitely did not want to. I decided to take a nap on the ride there, because it was about 6 hours from where we lived. As soon as we got there, I got a very creepy vibe, and a very unsettling stomach. Don't get me wrong, it was a very beautiful cabin, just didn't give the best vibes, I guess. Nothing was really happening, and I was finally settling into the couch as I read my book. Fast forward, maybe about 2 hours, and I'm halfway through my book when I see something running out of the corner of my eye. Of course, though, as soon as I look up, it's gone. My fiancé was out setting up his blind so he could hunt later, and this honestly just fueled more fuel to the paranoia fire going on inside my brain. I am a very petite woman, and I have never in my life ever had to defend myself. I really don't know what got into me, because even looking back now, it still makes me cringe at my choices. Stupidly, I decided to get up and walk towards the direction the shadow figure ran. After this, it was all a blur. I have no clue what happened in the hours after that. All I remember is my fiancé, Alan, shaking me awake while crying and begging me not to be dead. When my eyes finally decided to refocus, I saw why he was crying. Everything in the cabin was completely and utterly smashed or destroyed to the point there was no fixing. Even weirder, though, my entire body was filled with scratches and bruises. I couldn't stand the thought of staying there even one more second. I was leaving with or without my fiancé. Although when I tried to stand, I couldn't. I almost fell back on my face. If it weren't for my fiancé, I would have. He carried me out to the car and placed me in the passenger seat, going back in to grab everything we brought. When he came back, he said he would be right back, just had to grab everything he set up for his morning hunt. Those words terrified me, and I had no clue why they sounded like he was leaving me to the wolves. As soon as he left, I locked the doors and decided to turn on some music to try and calm myself down. Again, though, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the shadow figure. It made me jump while my entire body filled with goosebumps, but it vanished again, just like last time. My fiancé eventually got back to the car, and I unlocked it for him to get in. As soon as he did, I told him we needed to get out of there now. I couldn't bring myself to sleep in the car ride home, but as soon as my body hit my bed at home, I crashed. Fast forward a couple of weeks, everything was normal, and I was finally getting back into the groove of my life without being afraid. Without seeing that stupid shadow thing, but that did not last for long. I started seeing it again, but I refused to admit that I did. In hindsight, I can see how this only angered whatever it is. When I started to ignore it, everything got much worse. Not only was I seeing it now, but I was feeling it. I could feel it touch me, but it wasn't a welcoming touch. It was a burning, hot sensation. It simply felt like my skin was going to burn off. And if it wasn't that, it was scratches or bruises again. My fiancé started seeing the bruises and scratches, and I had no choice but to tell him that I started seeing it again. He instantly told me that I needed to make a therapist appointment, and that if I wouldn't, he would. To him, this was me slipping into insanity. It only drove a wedge between us and eventually led me calling off the engagement while simultaneously kicking him out of my condo. I think that's what it wanted, though, because now there was no one else in the way. I'm seeing it more frequently, and its touch has begun to actually leave welts. I'm scared. Any advice? I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.